Hello students, today we're going to talk about ratio application. What this means is we are going to go over a couple different scenarios and how ratios are applicable to our day-to-day lives. So at the beginning of your notes page at the very top, it says, as you apply ratios to solve real-world situations, consider asking yourself the following questions to guide your thinking and determine reasonableness for your solution. We're always asking ourselves, how reasonable is our solution? Because if it's not reasonable, then your solution is probably not correct. So let's go ahead and fill in these bubbles at the top here. The first one says, what is being compared? So the first box here, I want you to write compared. Compared. When we are talking about ratios, the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is being compared? Next, we need to ask ourselves, what information am I told about the comparison? What information is available to me when it comes to my ratio? So remember, ratios are comparisons. And then next, does your solution make sense in the context of the problem? In your word problem, they're going to give you context, and your solution needs to make sense based off of the information that you're told and what is being compared. So, farther down, it says practice applying ratios in the situations below. The first situation that they give us is Jenna and Becca were both selling cookies door to door. Jenna sold 4 boxes of cookies for every 3 boxes of cookies Becca sold. Combined, they sold a total of 35 boxes of cookies. How many boxes did each girl sell? Sketch a tape diagram to organize your work. Okay, so what I'm going to ask myself first is what I know. Now, going through my question, it says that Jenna and Becca are selling cookies door to door. I know that Jenna has sold 4 boxes of cookies for every 3 boxes of cookie that Becca has sold. So let's go ahead and write down Jenna is equal to 4 boxes. And Becca is equal to 3 boxes of cookies. Okay, what I need to know is how many boxes did each girl sell? How many boxes did each girl sell? Because their total came out to 35 boxes. I'm going to put a B for boxes. Now I'm going to plan and work. Okay, so I know Jenna has sold 4 for every 3 boxes that Becca has sold. So if their total was 35 boxes, and together they're selling 7 boxes at once. So for every door that they go to, they're selling 7 boxes because Jenna is selling 4 and Becca's selling 3 boxes. So what I need to ask myself is, what is the scale factor? If together they're selling 7 boxes at one time, for every 4 boxes Becca sells 3 boxes, and they all together in total sell 35 boxes. How did I jump from 7 to 35? Well, my scale factor had to be times 5. 7 times 5 equals 35. So therefore, if I have my 4 to 3 ratio for Jenna's boxes and Becca's boxes, and my scale factor is 5, multiplying by 5, multiplying by 5, then that means that each girl sold, Jenna would have sold 20 boxes because 4 times 5 is 20, and Becca would have sold 15 boxes because 3 times 5 is 15. So is this answer reasonable for our problem? And the answer is yes, because 20 plus 15 equals 35, and that's how many boxes they sold in total together. So in order to solve this problem, what we needed to do was take their ratio together, 4 to 3, add them up, 4 plus 3 equals 7, take their total, which was 35 boxes, and find the scale factor. 7 times 5 equals 35, so that was our scale factor. And then we took Jenna's ratio, 4, Becca's ratio, 3, scaled both of them up by 5 to get their total boxes sold. Moving on to question number 2. Question number 2 says, Latrina is planning to serve hors d'oeuvres at her wedding. She plans on offering 8 hors d'oeuvres for every 3 people. If she has 240 people RSVP to the wedding, how many hors d'oeuvres will she sell? Set up a proportion to solve. Okay, so what do I know? I'm going to go back and underline what I know. I know that Latrina is planning to serve hors d'oeuvres at her wedding. She plans on offering 8 hors d'oeuvres for every 3 people. Okay, so we're comparing hors d'oeuvres to people. So just for time's sake, I'm going to say food, because hors d'oeuvres mean appetizers or small finger foods. So I'm going to say what I know is I'm comparing food to people. Okay. What I need to know is how many hors d'oeuvres is she going to serve if 240 people RSVP to her wedding. Okay, so how many small foods, I'm going to say small foods instead of hors d'oeuvres because it's the same thing, small foods, if 240 people show up. RSVP. Okay, how many small foods if 240 people RSVP? So now I'm going to plan my work. I'm going to set up a proportion, and I'm going to label my proportion first. I'm going to put food, so F, compared to people, because that's the way that it was presented to me in my question. The question talked about hors d'oeuvres, food, before it talked about people. So food is going to be the numerator of my ratio. It's going to be my top number, and the people are going to be my denominator. So my first value for hors d'oeuvres or food was 8. And my second value for people was 3. And now I need to compare that to my total. My total was 240 people. 240. Okay. Therefore, I need to put my 240 people in the same section of my proportion as my 3 people. Okay, and then I need to put a question mark up here where my hors d'oeuvres are, because that's the value that I'm looking for. I'm trying to figure out how many hors d'oeuvres she's going to feed if 240 people RSVP. So now all I'm doing is looking for my relationship. I'm looking for my scale factor. I'm looking at the 2 numbers that I know. I know that I'm jumping from 3 people for every 8 hors d'oeuvres to 240 people. So how am I going to scale up from 3 to 240? Well, that's a big number. So first I'm going to just go ahead and ignore my 0 for a second. How do I get from 3 to 24? Well, 3 times 8 equals 24. Okay, so now if I add a 0 to the end of that 8, making it 80, 3 times 80 would get me 240. And I'm going to double check that math really quick just to make sure that I got it right. 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 8 is 24. So I know that's right. So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply my top number, my 8 hors d'oeuvres, by 80. And see what number I get. 80 times 8. I know 8 times 0 is 0. And 8 times 8 is going to be 64. 64. So therefore, she's going to need 640 hors d'oeuvres or foods if 240 people show up. Is this reasonable based on our question? Yes, it is, because I know that if there are 240 people there, then I'm going to need 640 hors d'oeuvres to feed all of those people for an 8-to-3 ratio. Go ahead and use this notes paper to fill out your worksheet that the sub will provide. Make sure that this notes page makes it in your math binder, and have a great rest of your day.